Good morning, viewers. I trust you're doing well. Today we want to talk about the Matatu industry overview, whereby as MCWA TV we'll discuss more on the gaps that we may have identified pertaining to the Matatu industry, and hopefully out of this information you'll be able to get people of goodwill, the government in particular, other stakeholders in the transport industry to help us bridge this gap and also empower this industry, which you have realized that it has a lot of potential. It is also bringing a lot of income and growth economically in the country. So today we just want to highlight those issues and those gaps that we've been able to identify, which will help us understand more clearly maybe why the Matatu industry requires a lot of support from all of us, starting even from the crew themselves, the passengers, the road, all the other road users, so that we can work together and empower this group. So the first one that we have been able to establish is absentee ownership and politicians linked to Matatu ownership. We all know Matatu industry is dynamic and it is open to everyone. But for the reforms to be able to take place, the owners of those Matatus and also maybe the politicians need to work hand in hand. And when I talk about working hand in hand, I'm talking about observing the laws and regulations as corporate and not leaving it to the crew, that is, not leaving it to the drivers, to the conductors. Because if we all work together, the owners, the crew itself, Matatu industry is going to grow and you'll be able to realize a lot of growth in it. So this is one of the gaps that need to be worked on so that we can be able to make this Matatu industry grow and become the best that we want it to be. The second one is lack of political will and political champions. When you talk about Matatu industry being disorganized, we may talk about it being disorganized because there's no particular person, and especially the politicians, who we believe they are there to champion and to bring sanity by speaking on behalf of such people like the stakeholders in the Matatu industry. You find the Matatu industry basically operates like an independent organization. They work like they are just competing amongst themselves. And maybe in Parliament we may want somebody to speak about this industry so that even as we think about implementing and bringing new laws and maybe changing the transport industry, we have somebody who is doing it from inside the cabinet, that is from the Parliament. The third one is poor driving behavior. And this one basically is because the laws and regulations are not very clear per se. Because I believe for you to become a Matatu driver, I mean the transport driver, not just a personal driver, there are some laws and regulations that need to be put in place, such that somebody has to have enough experience. The age also need to be very clear. And also we need to be giving them a course pertaining to the customer care. Maybe a course pertaining to dealing with human beings. Because we all know that Matatu industry, it all relates to human. And that means that for us to be able to bring sanity and to bridge this gap, there must be something, value addition, through maybe having some courses, short courses, having some reviews now and then to understand what is happening. And this one is going to help us mitigate some of the issues that come because of poor driving behavior. The other aspect is security issues. Of course, we all know Matatu industry is an industry that is full of cartels. The cartels starting from the stage managers, some of them have imposed themselves. They have even put some levies that are too high sometimes for the crew to be able to undertake and uptake. And this has already always brought a lot of clashes even within the routes. If the security issues pertaining to the Matatu industry were handled well and were well understood, it is going to bring a lot of sanity within the routes. The stage workers or the managers, the innocent bystanders, the commuters themselves, and the crew in general will be able to work in harmony, because everyone is going to feel I am safe, and there are clear rules. In case of any issue that relates to the security, they'll be able to know where to report or how to go about it. The other one is job security. Most of the time, the Matatu industry people have always felt like that they're neglected, marginalized. They feel like they don't belong. They don't even count themselves like they're employed, simply because there is no concern per se by the general public, by the government itself. We cannot say there are real structures that have been laid down pertaining to the Matatu industry, and most of them, they feel like their employment status are casual. They are not permanent. It's like they don't impact any economic growth, and this makes them actually behave the way they behave, because for most of them it is just a temporary job as they look for another job. So we also need to think on how we can empower this team, and we can also bring the clear structures within the industry so that the job security is well assured. Then the other one is true cost of owning and operating Matatus. Beginning from the registration with the regulatory bodies. The other one is about the ownership. When you talk about the ownership, I talk about the stage ownership. For you to be able to penetrate through any route, there are a lot of costs that are involved. There are a lot of things that you need to overcome for you to feel that I'm part and parcel of that. And as I'm going back to the regulations, if regulations were clear and they cut across, it will be very easy for people to be able to own Matatus, bring them on the road, and help people in the transport. But currently it is quite primitive, and many people feel this is not very easy for me to penetrate. As much as I would want to invest, the costs are too high. Then the other one is police bribes. This goes back to the structures. If the structures were clear, such that if an offense of such an maybe every offense or nature of offense is related to a specific fine without having to deal with the police instantly, that would be very good. Because currently what is happening, because now most of the crew work hand in hand with the police, sorry to say, you'll find sometimes even the Matatu is overcrowded. They have even excess. The Matatu insurance has expired. But because of this vice of bribes, you'll see the crew and the police, they work hand in hand, and this vehicle will be allowed to operate. And this one exposes the passengers and the other road users, because if this Matatu causes any accident and the insurance has expired, automatically this means they have exposed everyone who has been involved in such a scenario. So it is important maybe to look at this vice and bring in the rules and regulations which will go hand in hand. Any offense against a fine, and the clear structures on how to go about. Then the other one is lack of general plan. Majuk rules brought a lot of sanity to the whole transport industry. Currently, even the personal drivers, you'll find them not even buckling. You'll find them going at a higher speed than expected. But because there is no general plan on how to implement the rules that have been laid down, whether formal or current, you'll find there is a lot of insanity, if I may call it insanity, within our transport industry, simply because the vision and the focus is not carried on. There is no succession plans on how to go about some plans that may have been articulated, put down, laid down, and some of them had started being implemented, but because of lack of structures at all, then they go down the drain, and this exposes people to more danger. Then, of course, there is the general perception. Basically, most of us, we have an attitude, we have a perception, a negative perception about Matatu industry, or even the transport industry, if I may say. Because even the long distance trucks, we all see them like a menace on the road. And because of this general dislike, it becomes hard for Matatu drivers to integrate with other people, and you'll find them driving carelessly, and because they want also to prove a point. You've already perceived us, this is how we are, so we'll prove to you for exactly this is who we are. And with that, now it brings a lot of disconnect. This need to be mitigated by having maybe forums and education, so that people can be able to understand about Matatu industry in general, and appreciate it, and people to work together in harmony. The other one is Congestion and the Transport Licensing Board. Yeah, it takes a lot of unreasonable amount of time to access some licenses, to access some, all the requirements for you to be on the road. Then, of course, we talk about our congestion within the roads. And because of lack of poor structures, or poor structures, that is why we take a lot of time. Like now, if you move from an estate to town, instead of taking 30 minutes, you find yourself taking a whole hour or 1.5 hours, which actually eats up the amount of time that one should be productive doing something else. And this is because we don't have clear structures on our roads. We have not been able to decongest. We've not been able to appreciate that we need to do something for our roads to be less congested by having clear and well-laid regulations and structures. The other thing is that those people now, especially those who are involved in illegal activities, you'll find them investing in matatus, investing in those transport industry, because there is no structure, there is no regulation to check on. There is no the know your customer policy is not even applied. So basically, those are some of the gaps that we have identified as MCWA TV, and we are hoping that these can be taken up with a positivity, whereby the people may have a sitting, they can be able to sit together, talk together, get to know especially these issues in depth. And once these issues are analyzed in depth and investigated properly, then people will be able to speak together. We'll be able to come up with plans and policies that will be able to guide this industry. And as I mentioned from the word go, Matatu industry or transport industry in general is an economic empowerment industry, whereby it cannot be ignored. It cannot be taken for granted, because we know it is bringing growth in our economy through employment, through the monies that it circulates each and every day, through the levies, through the taxes. So this is an industry that we cannot take for granted. It's an industry that we cannot just assume, because if you assume it, will be bringing a lot of havoc. We'll not even be able to bring that empowerment that we want to bring on board, whereby even Matatu people, we want them to feel that this is an employment like any other. It's an employment that they can be able to adapt, they can be able to run with, and they respect it, because once we empower them, they'll be able to realize that it is not a white collar job, but it is a job like any other, that it requires a lot of attention, requires a lot of commitment, requires a lot of goodwill from all of us. So what would be the way forward? For us, we are thinking as MCAW TV that we need to develop a transportation vision that considers Matatu and other transport industry stakeholders. I mean even long distance drivers. the counters, the pickups. If we had a transportation vision that is well outlined, I'm sure it's going to be a drive. So the other one is having a strong plan or vision that depicts how the city should develop. And that will also articulate the role of transport industry, and especially within the city. The other way that we are thinking we can be able to encourage and enforce and grow this industry is by educating and engaging stakeholders. We need to have forums for education, forums for reviews, forums for follow-ups, so that we can be able to understand. And that means that even if we have such forums, it means that in case there is anything to be implemented, there won't be any resistance, there won't be any back and forth, because everyone will be involved as a stakeholder. Of course, we need to have education campaigns within our routes, within our roads, we can identify areas where we can have these education campaigns, workshops and seminars, whereby we are going to engage even the public, the general public, about our local complexity. They need to understand this transport industry, all of us, because if all of us are educated through the workshops and seminars, then it means the Matatu or the transport industry system is going to be the best, because everyone is going to work towards its growth. Then of course we have data analysis on understanding what do we have on our roads, how many 14 seaters are on the road at a particular time, or in a town or a city, how many long distance tractors are within our city or within our country, are they in good condition? Because with data analysis you are able to understand the kind of gadgets or the kind of machines that you're using, so that you can be able even to predict the future. Then of course we need to keep on gathering data and information about our crew. I mean the drivers, the conductors, you see, everyone who is involved in the Matatu industry, especially the crew. We need to keep on having that data. We keep on gathering that data, have a clear database, so that even as we condemn or even as we think on empowering, we know the people that we are empowering. Do you have this data, or we're just thinking there are people who need to be empowered, yet they may not even be able to comprehend the information? Because with the data, when you gather data, you are able to understand the age demographic, you'll be able to understand the environment, you'll be able to understand the academic background, you'll be able to understand their competence. And that means that even as we think about the forums for education, you may be able to classify them. You may be able to know what to talk about, how to talk about it, what visual aids, what gadgets to use for you to be able to reach these people, because of the dynamics within the industry. Then of course we need to have a positive attitude. Positive attitude means that we need to embrace this industry like any other industry. We need to realize that for us to be able to grow and change this Matatu or transport industry, there has to be an open mind, there has to be positivity, there has to be focus. People have to speak from the same page, reading from the same script, by understanding why, by understanding where we are, where we want to go, what we need to do for us to go where we want to go, whom to involve, and how to go about it. Basically, we need a clear strategic plan that will be able to highlight the vision, the mission, and the focus for the Matatu industry, without forgetting that it's always an entry point for many school leavers before they get direction on where to go. So it cannot be ignored. And that is why, as MCAWTV, we want to keep on talking about the digital industry so that people can be able to understand it is an industry, it is an employment opportunity like any other, but it needs a lot of support. We therefore welcome you together with your comments so that we can still continue journeying together. We can still continue understanding this industry in depth, empowering the crew and all the stakeholders so that they can be able to feel part and parcel of the economic growth. For now, we wish you all the best. We thank you for your time, and we hope to hear more comments from you so that we can be able to become better and grow as we have focused and as you have visualized. Thank you for your time.